because I was willing to get up out of bed and work. And still to this day, you know, whether I go to bed at 3 a.m., I'm up at 7, 8 a.m. to pursue my dreams and just, you know, chase what I want. So by 27 years old, I opened up Morrow's. And from there, you know, I opened up, you know, Treehouse. I opened up Monday, which is a restaurant I own in Mid-City. From there, I opened up, what's the next spot? Sun Chung. And I currently have, you know, 2 other restaurants I'm opening up this year, Morrow Steak and Spicy Mango, which is New Orleans Caribbean restaurant. But all of that has been able to come to life just because of the work I put in early. So I was able to establish and understand what it meant to work. And I know I didn't want to work for anyone else. But also another thing that helped me was just me wanting to take those risks and jump off the cliff and figure things out on the way down. That's not always the recipe for everybody, but for me, it was my recipe that helped me gain my success in the business that I'm in at an early age of 32. So, yeah, that's my journey.
I think we have. Yeah.
Can I just piggyback on what a couple of people said? You know, Judy, during her keynote, she said that you have to be a lifelong learner, right? You've always got to be learning. And so when you hear about all of their journeys as it relates to financing and how to, you know, build capital and those kinds of things, there's not just one way to do that, right? Everybody had a different journey, right? But what you really have to be thinking through is, how did they do it? Not necessarily, the issues that they had in it, but also you should be looking at them as models and systems. That's how I always think. So when I look at all of these entrepreneurs on the stage, I actually study them, right? I study a lot of people and I study a lot of things, even when we talk about this march, right? Don't just think about what happened at the march. How did they do it, right? And study it, because that's the things that we need for today. We need to actually look at what they did. So when you hear from these entrepreneurs, right, including myself, you actually need to listen to what they're saying and apply it to what you want to do and how you can navigate through all of these things. And I'll just say what Zavitri said earlier, like, life is hard, right? Life is going to throw a curve at you at some point. And many times people have a lot of curveballs, right? But how you respond to it, how you navigate through it is really the success. It's the litmus test for success, right?
And did you want to share, before we go on, just want to share your story?
Before you share your story, please, may I just make this point, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Outstanding point about studying what happened. Not to just look at the thing itself, but to look inside of the thing and to figure out what it is that you can learn. That is a very, very, very valuable lesson. An extremely valuable piece of advice, because things happen all the time. But if you can figure out how to look inside of what you see and pull out the lessons, pull out something that you can take and apply to yourself, very, very, very valuable. Thank you so much for saying that.
And let me just say this one thing, because I started at Baskin Robbins, right? So Larry told y'all about his journey, right? But at every turn, you have learned something, right? You talked about all those jobs. You learned something along the way, whether you were, parking, cars, or life, guarding, all of those things. You learned something, and it allowed you to where you are today. So we have to be thinking about that too, right? So not just studying other people or studying different events, but start studying yourself too, right? That's really, really important.
I think Mr. Morrow made a good point with saying that you get to look and figure out what was good for him, and so did Dr.
I'll share a couple points. That one thing I think is that what are we here to leave with these students this evening? And one thing I'll say is all of us on this stage all know each other, And as you all are going through entering adulthood and going through college, one thing I always heard kind of coming up is kind of always make sure you're surrounding yourself around greatness, around excellence, around people you can learn from, people that can inspire you. And so while everyone on the stage is very busy, we all got a ton of things going on, as most of them have talked about, but I know if I need something, I need to learn something, I need help with something, I can call or message anyone on the stage. And by and large, I've probably done that to just about most of you all. And so as you all are, I think that's the important thing. I was fortunate to be around a bunch of friends recently on a trip, and I was looking at the accomplishments of my friends, and we were celebrating each other. But it's not a coincidence. The things you hear about, kind of birds of a feather flock together, right? And Jay's point about kind of studying and learning from each other. And so that's, I think that's one thing that I want to kind of share with these students. My career journey, a lot like Ryan and Larry, has kind of always been kind of getting it out of the mud. Having, one thing I've always had a lot of pride in is that I say our companies are debt free. And one is a result of circumstances, because people like us don't have access to a lot of capital. And so what we did is we took a societal circumstance and made it a point of pride, saying we were able to do this on our own. So we don't have significant or anything debts or anything like that, because we've been able to build businesses from the ground up. And we did that with our agency, the Spears Group. We did that with the festival business we created, where we've been able to produce festivals across the country, pretty large ones at this point. And then when we made the decision that we wanted to take a legacy radio station and keep it from going off the air at WBOK, and as Dominic here from my team is here, we were able to do that as well with a number of partners. So really just, this philosophy of, okay, if society and banks and financial institutions won't provide access to capital to businesses of color, we'll find another way to go about it.
Very good. So I'd like to share with you quickly that something that stood out, I'm not sure if you could think about it, is the role of credit. Maintaining good credit and maintaining good financial standing, so that you can get to wherever and this collaboration and learning, I think that's outstanding. Now we want to have the student panelists to share with you, if Herbert is okay, since you just had the mic, I think that would be good to start, or any of you to start talking about your interests. What have you done? What are your interests in this panel? We talked a lot about some of the things that you all are studying and thinking about. So whoever would like to start, can go ahead. And then after that, I hope that some of the professionals of you can engage a little bit, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Okay. Ms. Herbert, do you want to start? No, you want to start. Ms. Burns. Oh, good. I have. Go ahead, Ms. Williams. Yeah, this is Ms. Williams, right?
Like I said in a little spiel, my introduction, I'm very big on misunderstood youth. So over my summer, I spent my summer in the woods as a summer camp counselor, but it was also a psychology internship. So I would spend Monday through Thursday in the woods as a summer camp counselor. And on Friday, I would travel back to the city in Boston, and I would sit in a corporate office, and we would talk about how can we help the kids the next week coming up. So we would have 2 weeks in those youth programs. And we really, this summer, it was really such an eye-opening experience, learning how me as an African-American woman, how I could change the youth around me. So everybody, how many of y'all in here have siblings younger than y'all? Exactly, a lot of y'all. And a lot of y'all siblings look up to y'all, correct? Now, how many of y'all in here have cellular devices, iPads, phones? Exactly, everybody has that, and so does your siblings. So what we learned this summer was that our youth, even like us as students here at Dillard, we are changing the economy as we know it. But also our siblings, our younger humans, our tiny humans, they're changing the economy. And it has really been a joy to know that me at the age of 19, how I could help change the world by giving knowledge to the children that are like younger than us. So when I'm sitting on this panel board with such amazing like people and hearing their stories, what for me sticks out is how I feel like I'm the younger sibling in this matter, and how you said like how I can study and actually learn how I can change to pass it on to the generation after me. Everybody's so big on, oh, this generation is different, but the generation to come, that's the generation that needs to be watched. Because kids, they have their phones, they can do anything with these phones, and they're learning as they grow. They're little sponges. So I think that was really my joy this summer.
Okay. Ms. Thomas, you want to tell us about Hope Credit?
Okay. This summer, I was doing a little bit of everything. So my first half of my summer was more of what I'm used to. So I was an ambassador for the 400 Years of African American History Commission. So I was going into different states, looking at Black history, and pretty much something what we're doing on the panel is how far we've come. But also the second half of my summer is where I kind of questioned what I was doing. I became an intern for Hope Credit Union. Y'all, I'm a political science major. I didn't know anything about finance, but they recruited me for a reason. I didn't realize this until I actually got there and said yes. But they serve under-resourced communities, Black communities in deep southern states. Like Dr. Washington talked about how she was denied for loans. Well, we help Black-owned businesses with those loans, because there's big name banks out there who will deny Black-owned businesses, even though they're overqualified for a lot of the stuff. And they come to Hope because we serve the Black community. Hope Credit Union is actually in some bad parts of town because a lot of banks refuse to serve in those communities. But Hope is one of those banks that is always there. And over the summer, I actually went to a corporate office in Mississippi. How many corporate offices you know that's in Mississippi? Not many. But I was there in a corporate office, and I actually went to Urban League, which is funny that you're up here. And I learned so much. Yes, I don't know nothing about finance, but I learned so much being there. And there's also a policy component to it. And so not only did I help finance and create generational wealth in Jackson, Mississippi, but I also learned that I'm a policymaker for Hope Credit Union, and that's why they really want to be there.
Wonderful.
I have to say this, I serve on the board of Hope Credit Union, and I am so impressed with you and so proud of you. I can't wait to go back and tell the board. I'm going to take a picture with you. I'm going to take a picture with all of you, but you especially, so that I can send it to Bill Bynum, who is the president and CEO, whom I'm sure you had a chance to meet.
Well, that's another thing. They're very genuine, because I actually he came up to me and had a full conversation about what I wanted to do and how Hope can actually help me into my career goals after college. And I didn't know a CEO would actually come up to me and ask that, because he knew I didn't know nothing about Hope either. I'm gonna be honest, I'm from Vegas. We don't got no Hope Credit Unions, but he was so interested in me. So Hope is really a genuine place that really is trying to serve the community.
And you just answered with a speaker, and then you just did what we hoped that, no pun intended, that would happen, that it would engage. Yes, Ms. Mitchell, want to talk a little bit about what your interests and how that works and being things?
Sure. I'll say that I view my own social activism through a lens of Pan-Africanism and through a lens of Black progression. And what we see on this stage is a facet of the excellence of the Black middle class. So it's an honor to be here and to be on this panel with the rest of y'all. And I think there is a question from this commemoration and from this continuation of that March on Washington, which is, has the Black middle class done its due diligence to serving and uplifting the rest of the Black community? Has the Black political and professional class really truly done that? And I spent my summer with a program in partnership with Howard University So, so thanks you know is over here. And under Howard University and under the State Department, I was blessed to be selected for the Charles B. Rangel Summer Enrichment Program of International Affairs. And so that's 6 weeks at Howard University. And when you're trained and instructed by foreign service officers and diplomats, I've learned that the academic question is always, it depends, right? So it depends when we look at this question that we're answering up here. And I think that it's August, and August is Black Philanthropy Month. And so it is a disservice to fall into the myth that Black philanthropy has not been here for a long time. I think it's a myth to say that it's just gained this newfound popularity over the last several decades. From Madam C.J. Walker down to Oprah and everywhere in between, you have seen this communal sharing and this giving that's ancestral, that goes back to traditional West African tradition of how we share and we give to uplift the rest of our community. And we've had to do that. It was the mutual aid clubs and the Black churches that were organizing the community, and it was our own investments into these pleasure clubs, these fraternities, these social organizations that had to be our backbone. After slavery, through Jim Crow, we had to have that. And I think we have to give credit to that. But since then, what have we seen change? And there's been a neutralization of the Black middle class that happened. And that was a concerted effort from a white power structure that had a liberal base that said, well, you have to let a few of them through. You have to let a few of them excel, because a population that is hopeless is dangerous. So you have to let a few pass, and what you get is a proximity to an assimilation now with whiteness. And okay, so now they've come up with us. Now you're an alien to your brother in the community. You can't leave them in the ghetto, because if they're too smart, they'll radicalize there. So what you see has been a separation and a molding, and that's been the 70s, the 80s, and throughout, that 20th century into the 21st. And so the charge looks different now. And there's an article by Vox under Ann Peterson, and it's The Mirage of the Black Middle Class. That's what it's entitled. And it's something that Dr. Mitchell said, I think, when he said that in the corporate space of America, it was exhausting. And there's a quote within that article that says, to be in those spaces is about vigilance, and vigilance is exhausting. So it depends, right? We see how much help we had to uplift the rest of us and push each other forward. This was the talented 10th. And this was what W.E.B. Du Bois made popular. But it was started by Henry Morehouse, the white man who was the founder of Morehouse College. And it said that there is the mediocre 9, but there is the 10th man, the 10th Black man, who will excel to bring up the rest of the masses. He will be the college educated, the talented, who will be engaged in social change. And so what we have is the talented 10th here, and what we have is a charge that some of us have neglected and others look for to continue the hope of our future. So I think that's where the rest of this conversation will go, about the charge of the Black middle class. Where do we go from here? What do we do now? And I think the ultra rich, that's another story. Beyonce, that's another story. But here, in the Black middle class, that is our cross to bear that we will continue discussing.
And it is difficult. Thank you. Very difficult. Thank you. Ms. Burns, I think, and Ms. Burns.
I'd say for my summer, it started out with an internship. I had to decline the offer, or I was a part of it, but I